Ordinary Average Guy Podcast Show. Hey everybody, it's the Ordinary Average Guy Podcast Show coming at you, previously recorded from the Buxty Hootie Studios. And we're back for the tens and tens of you out there listening to this wonderful program. Sunday morning I'm recording this. Sunday morning. I was gonna do it last night. And dude, I was so tired, man. I was so tired. I fell asleep on the recliner on my lazy boy. Fell asleep and woke up this morning to my son nudging me. Slept there the whole night. 9.5 hours, I think I slept. I was beat like a dog, and I don't know, it was nice. It was nice to get a night, usually, it's funny, on the weekends is the time you can rest and catch up on sleep, but usually when I look at my Oura ring, I usually sleep less on the weekends. You know what I mean? Because you're always up late at night watching your show. We're watching all these shows, and, we're up so late. And then the morning, when you have little kids, usually just like this morning, you get woke up by the kids. But today, by the grace of God, our kids slept in a little bit, but still, early. I mean, they're not waking up at 9 o'clock. They wake up early, 7 o'clock or whatever. So, what I'm getting at is that you stay up late at night, and then you still wake up early anyway. So you usually only get like 5 hours of sleep on the weekend. You know what I mean? You don't get caught up, and then it's back to the work week. So it was nice to get I think the Oura ring said 9.5 hours of sleep last night. On the chair, on the Lazy Boy. Now, to the fine people at Lazy Boy, you send me anything you want me to read, and I'll read it. Because your products are phenomenal. I'm a big Lazy Boy guy, okay? I am making the statement right here, right now, that when it comes to recliners, when it comes to my chair, right? The old man's chair. Don't sit in there. That's Dad's chair, right? When it comes to that, for the rest of my life, I don't think I would ever have a chair that's not a Lazy Boy. I don't, no disrespect to the other makers. We'll put it this way. When it comes to furniture manufacturers, quick, who can you think of? Right? Lazy Boy. Household name. All right, I was talking about that last week, about household name. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. When you're a company, you want to be a household name, like Kleenex, right? Grab me a Kleenex. And you might not even have, quote unquote, a Kleenex. You might have something else, a tissue paper. That's what it's really called, tissue paper, I think. I think they're called tissue papers. But you call them Kleenexes. You understand what I'm saying? Kleenex, you go down south. I've heard this. I've not experienced this, but I've heard this many times. You ask for a soda. They don't call it soda. They don't call it pop. They call it Coke. What kind of Coke you want? I've heard that. Now, I've never experienced that firsthand, but I'm taking people's word for it. So what I'm getting at is, if you're a big CEO out there, let me give you a little bit of advice. And you want to be a household name, right? Lazy Boy. I have a Lazy Boy, and I slept in it all last night, and it was better than my bed. So I mean that has something to show. Plus, I also like how the Lazy Boy has that ratcheting system in there, where the recliner, click 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 click, and then you're kind of locked in that position. That's, I believe, that is a Lazy Boy invention, and they have the patent on that. I don't think you're going to find that in any other recliner. So, long story short, Lazy Boy's not paying me to say anything here, so I should probably wrap it up. Because I want to start getting paid, man. I want to start getting paid. There's a lot of people out there that owe me a lot of money. I've been talking about Lazy Boys. Talked over the 40 some odd episodes I've done. I've talked about Lazy Boys. Early on, I talked about the Navage, right? nose cleansing. I've talked about Pop-Tarts, I'm sure. It's now time for you guys to start paying up. Because I got tens and tens of people out here listening to this. And I can assure you right now, there's people clicking Lazy Boy. What you can do is go to lazyboy.com, right? Pick out your chair. In the code above, you type in J-Kenn 10. And you'll get nothing off. I don't know why you got to put a 10 in there, but it's 0% off. But anyway, slept like a baby last night. Had some, oh man, dreams, dude. Dreams are the coolest thing in the world. And I had some dreams last night. And I've gotten to the point now where, I used to have some vivid dreams, right? Vivid dreams that seem like they were real. You wake up in the morning and you're like, geez, did that really happen to me? Did that hot blonde with the knockers really? But in the dream, you're kind of like, you're trying to. I've learned to teach myself, like, hey, this is a dream. Punch the guy in the face. You can do it. It's a dream. You know what I mean? And last night I had a dream, nothing crazy like that, but it was just, real, and there was people from my past that were in there. And I don't know. They say, now, this is something I've heard too. If anyone is out there that's a dream person, let me know if this is accurate. But they say that when you dream, every single person that you see in your dream is a person that you've seen in real life, right? I did some reading on this a while back about your brain, about your subconscious. And you know how they say that you only use 10% of your brain? Well, that statement is kind of, I don't know. That statement is, it's not saying like, oh, you only use 10% of your brain, you're an idiot. It's just saying that 10% of your brain is your conscious, right? Like, I see what you see around you, right? But 90% of your brain is like a big filing cabinet where it just files everything, right? So when you go to the mall and you get your Orange Julius, right? Hey, Orange Julius, I'm giving you a shout out. Anyway, you get your Orange Julius, right? You're walking around the mall and you see these people. Now you see them for like a fraction of a second and then you never see them again. But your eyes see it, your brain collects it, and it stores it into your brain. And then at nighttime when you're dreaming, that person might show up in your dream. You know what I'm saying? That's how it works. That's or if you've been somewhere, like in your dream. Like I remember I had this dream when I was a little kid. It was a scary dream. It was a nightmare. And I was a little kid, and I was in this big house. Now, apparently, if I'm reading this correctly, like I never was at that house in real life, but I must have maybe saw like a vision of it on TV or something like. That's what I'm getting at here. So I remember hearing that one time, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna go with this. But long story short, the idea. So your subconscious, right? So if you like everything, ain't that crazy to think about? Like your brains. Like I believe that. Everything you see is stored in your brain somewhere. And a while back, I got real into this, like how to unlock that. How to unlock that 90%. Because, if you can unlock it, essentially, you're going to be the sky's the limit. Sorry, got a frog in my throat. Better. I'm better now. So I got into this thing where I read this book. It was like called Unlock Your. I don't know what the hell it's called, but in there it talked about using a pendulum. Right now, this pendulum might seem a little witchcrafty, but I wasn't using it for that case. What I would do is draw a circle on a piece of paper, okay? And I would have whatever I wanted. I could draw whatever I wanted on that circle. A lot of times I just drew a yes on the top and bottom, and I drew a no on the left and right. Okay, and then I held this pendulum in the circle, and I held it as steady as possible, and I would just ask it a question. Like I wouldn't ask the question like, I wouldn't ask a question like, again, I wasn't trying to be like witchcrafty with this. I would just be like, I would ask a question like, if I've lost my keys, for example, I would just be like, are my keys in the car? And it would like rotate left or right or up and down. And then if it said no, then I'd be like, are my keys in my room? Because your body, let's say you drop your keys. Let's say you lose your keys somewhere. You lost your keys. Your conscious doesn't know that you lost your keys. Okay? But your nerves in your body, right? Your leg, the nerves in your leg felt the keys fall out of your pocket, which in turn, and then your subconscious like, okay, you're in your room, the keys fell out of your pocket there. Now it's all subconscious, right? So when you ask the pendulum, your subconscious brain is sending signals to your fingers, and it's making it move in any direction. When my wife was pregnant, and my sister, when she was pregnant, we didn't find out what the gender of the baby was going to be. I'm talking traditional, male, female. So we didn't find out, but for the hell of it, we asked the pendulum, is it a boy? Is it a girl? And when my wife did it, it said it was going to be a girl. And when my sister did it, it said it was going to be a boy. And sure enough, that's what they ended up having, a boy and a girl. So it's pretty crazy. Your subconscious. I would highly recommend, this might be a little out there. You might be thinking, oh, this is J-Kenn's talking like a goddamn fruit. But I'm telling you, your brain knows a lot of stuff. There's 90% of your brain that just has all this stuff stored away. And it's up to you to tap into it. And the pendulum is one way to do it. I think there's other ways to do it too, but I was really into it. And then, then you just stop and then you get into something else. But, no, it's just very interesting. It's very, very interesting. Anyway, so I had some dreams last night that were vivid. And I remember when I woke up, I was like, it was just, I love that. I love having dreams that are like real life. You're not flying on a horse or anything. It's like a real life dream. And I woke up and I was all discombobulated. No idea where I was. I woke up on the chair. I was expecting to be in my bed because the lazy boy's so comfortable. It was just, a weird morning, but but I don't know. I was just freaking tired, dude. And I've been tired. And I was blaming it on daylight savings. Well, daylight savings is well in the past. And I don't know. I just cannot get into it, dude. I can't get in. I'm trying to do my early morning routine, and it was fine. And all of a sudden, I messaged my doctor, who I'm seriously considering going to one of these doctors that, they're like the holistic kind. I'm really, really considering it because I'm really starting to lose faith in, like your traditional doctor. I feel like they just want to throw pills at you. They just want to throw pills at you. It's like, dude, no, I'm not against taking pills, man. I'll take pills. Don't believe me. I'll take some pills. But there's got to be, there's an underlying situation, right? And I wasn't thinking about this until my brother, maybe I said this a couple weeks ago, but my brother had to go to the hospital, actually. He had gotten an accident. He's okay. Thanks for your thoughts and prayers. Appreciate it. But he had to go to the hospital, and they did some tests on him. And anyway, they found out, now he wasn't here for this, but they found out that he had like a huge vitamin D, I think it was vitamin D deficiency, like huge. And they gave him some special vitamin D pills, like vitamins, but they were like over the top, like huge, a lot of milligrams of vitamin D, like so much that he could only take it once a week. And then every other day he was supposed to take like a normal vitamin D vitamin. Vitamin D vitamin. I feel like that's not how you should say that. It should be vitamin D I feel there's a third word there that, like I want to take a vitamin D blank. But what would that third word be? Because it sounds foolish to say a vitamin D vitamin. So what would the third word, a vitamin D capsule? That's kind of a weird, I never thought about that. You have a vitamin D, but what is it? You take a but then if you take a Tylenol, you don't say I took a Tylenol pill. You just say I took a Tylenol. Right? Yeah, I took a vitamin D. But when you say I took a vitamin D, that just sounds fun. It doesn't sound complete. Does that make any sense? It doesn't sound resolved. I took a vitamin D. Well, vitamin D, what? Because there could be a shot, it could be a capsule, it could be a liquid. Interesting. Anyway, so it got me thinking. So I was like, well, maybe I'm deficient. I do take vitamin D, but maybe it's not enough. I take magnesium, I take iron, right? Iron. I take all that shit. And I was like, maybe I'm still deficient. So I messaged my doctor. I'm like, hey, I want to take a blood test, and I want you guys to test for this stuff. And he's like, well, you're going to have to pay for it. It's going to be 100% out of pocket because you don't have any. And it's like, dude, every time I come to you, I tell you that I don't have energy, that I feel sluggish. For the last how many years? And all you tell me to do is exercise more, eat better. Well, it's like, dude, I am eating. And then last time I went, it's like, I am eating better. I'm exercising all the time. And I still just feel blah. You know what I mean? It's like, you fucking guy. Think outside the box. You know what I'm saying? These goddamn doctors, they don't think outside the box at all. They're just like, oh, you gotta eat better. Next. Drink more water. Next. It's like, god damn it. So, I don't know. But I got an FSA account, flex spending. I also have an HSA. I got some money saved up in there. So I got some money to blow on medical stuff. So I'm like, maybe I should do it, and at least I'll have the peace of mind. Another thing too, like when it comes to I hate to say the word, but cancer, it's like, shouldn't the doctor shouldn't that just be like, I don't know how that works. But I always think about I could have cancer in me right now, and I wouldn't know it until it shows up, until it's there. I had this bump on my chin. You know what I'm saying? I got this bump. And I've had it forever. And I can't get rid of it. And now that I'm going with a more clean-shaven look these days because my face is thinner. Don't mean to brag, but my face is thinner. So I'm going with this clean-shaven look, right? And the doctors and I talked to the doctor. I'm like, they got this bump on my chin, and it's been there for years. And I remember when I was in high school, my freshman year of high school, there was a kid in my class who had cancer. He had this big thing on his neck. And I remember seeing, I was in agriculture class, and I was like, holy God, that doesn't seem normal. And he ended up having cancer. He's fine. They got rid of it. I don't know. He's fine or whatever. He's healthy. Last I spoke to him, he's good to go. But that's what my brain was thinking. Like, oh my God, this is like cancer or something on my chin, and it then never goes away. I wash it, I clean it, it just doesn't go away. And the doctor's just like, oh, it's probably just an ingrown hair. It's like an ingrown hair for 6 years. Shouldn't you look at it? You didn't even look at it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, or I get my blood work done. They check for cholesterol, they check for blood sugar, they check for all that stuff. But can't they also check and see if there's some cancer in there? You know what I mean? I just feel like these guys don't do shit. Sorry if you're a doctor, but man, I don't know. If I was a doctor, I would be, I don't know. I think I'd be better than it. But you know what? Maybe they do know what they're doing, and they just know, no, dude, it's not. Don't worry about it. But it's I leave that place, and I never have peace of mind. I never have peace of mind when I leave that place. And I always, when I read these stories about people, with cancer and they catch it early. What was that? They went in for somebody went in for something, and they ended up. How often do you hear that though? Like they caught it by accident or something. Accident, like at first, and usually I think people are like, "Oh wow, you're so lucky that they caught that by accident." But there's a second part of me. It's like, well, why the fuck are they catching it by accident? Shouldn't they be looking for that shit? Like, I'm at the doctor. Am I healthy or not? I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. I probably am. What do I know? I mean, I just sound like one of those, prick customers. But, then there's a side of me too. It's like, well, if I go to one of these holistic doctors, see, the thing with those people is they will find something wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to find something wrong with you. And, and then you're going to have to start eating, like, some bullshit. I don't know. I have no idea. But I just wish there was something in between. You know what I mean? If you are listening and you are from the Appleton, Wisconsin area, and you have a doctor that's awesome, I want you to email me that guy or girl's name and where they work at jkennoag@outlook.com so I can go to them also, because I just I don't know, man. I have no idea. I don't know. I couldn't tell. Anyway, I don't even know where I was going with this. Oh yeah, so I want to get some blood work done to see how I'm, if I'm deficient in anything. Because I don't know, dude. It just feels, but you know what though? I might be talking to my ass because I just talked about how you only sleep for 5 hours on the weekends and stuff like that. So maybe I'm just not getting enough sleep. That could be. Maybe I'm just sleep deficient. I don't know. But I would like to see a piece of paper that says that. I would like to see a piece of paper that just says, J-Kenn, you are sleep deficient. You can put a man on the moon, but you can't take a test for that. Or maybe you can. I have no idea. Tell me. But anyway, I was so tired yesterday. Yesterday and today is going to be, this weekend was as well as ordinary and average as you can get. I cleaned out the garage yesterday. After winter, seems like every year a garage just gets so messy during the winter seasons, right? You have everything in the garage. It all gets kind of jumped up. Plus my little workshop area. On the last project I was working on, I didn't really clean it up, and I was kind of working on like 2 or 3 things at a time, so it was just shit everywhere. So yesterday I cleaned the garage pretty good. Well, not great. It's still kind of a mess, but I cleaned up my area, for sure pretty good. Our daughters, so I have 2 daughters. They sleep together in the same bed. Kind of an old school way of looking at it, but their room is small. And they sleep in the same room. We only have a 3-bedroom house, and they sleep in the same room. And it's kind of like one of those deals where you can't get 2 beds in there. And so we got a queen size bed for the girls, and they both sleep in there, and it works great. I mean, they're 4 and 2, so it's not like she's like, it's not like they're like 18 and 16. You know what I'm saying? They're 4 and 2. So I had to put that bed together. That's the thing when you're a dad. Now that I like building stuff, right? I a woodworker. I like building stuff. It's kind of, it's fun. It's enjoyable. But one thing I do not enjoy is like putting things together from a package, like this bed. I was just like, as soon as it showed up on the front porch, I'm like, oh God, I'm going to have to do this. And I put it together, and then, and then we had all the cardboard. You have all the cardboard, you have all the plastic. So that was one thing I did yesterday too. I cut that all down, got that all in the bins, recycling, trash, which I heard that recycling is a joke. I'm at the find. There's a documentary out there or something that talks about it. It's like 80% of the things that are supposed to be recycled don't even get recycled. Something like that. I'm gonna have to find that and watch that, because I'm really like, and I'm not like a nature. I'm not like one of these. Like, let's save the planet. I'm not like that. But I if it's supposed to be recyclable, I put it in recycling. If it's supposed to be garbage, I put it in the garbage. You know, and a lot of times, especially like this week, you know, where you have all this cardboard in the recycling bin, the bins like overflowing. But for whatever reason, our garbage is like half full. And I'm always so tempted to be like, screw it. I'm going to put this shit in the garbage, right? And I don't do it. And I don't do it because it's, you know, there's just something in my mind. It's like, dude, that's recyclable, you know? But I want to watch this documentary. I'll have to Google it. I didn't think about it till now. They say that the shit you put in your recycling bin doesn't even make it to the recycling center. Like most of it just gets end up in the landfill anyway. Well, if that's the case, then screw it. You know what I mean? I don't know. But so yeah, it's just, and I took the Christmas lights down last night. My wife was on me about that because it's April. And the Christmas lights are still up, and I'm like, I was telling her, well, I'm not turning them on every night. Who gives a shit if they're still up, you know? But I took them down yesterday, and I think I jacked my hand up, because we have like a tall house, you know what I mean? So I didn't want to go up on the roof. Taking Christmas lights down actually is not that bad. What I do is I just take one strand and I just pull it, and they just go right off the eaves troughs. You know what I'm saying? But some lights were really high up, so I'd have to climb a ladder to get to them, and I didn't want to do that. So we have this really long pole extender thing for putting Christmas lights like in trees and stuff. So I used that to kind of snag the lights and kind of get enough down so I could grab them. Anyway, I was dominantly using my right hand, and it's all strained right now. Like it's really, really strained right now, and it's my right hand, and I can hardly like move it, and that could be a problem later on. This could come back to haunt me, later on tonight or whatever. But anyway, I don't know what to do about that. It's all strained. I guess I go to the doctor, but the guy probably would send me away. But yeah, and then today we have more. I mean, this is as ordinary and average as you get, cleaning out the garage, putting shit together, right? But you got to do that once in a while. You have to just sacrifice a few days to get things in order. Today, so we got the new bed in my daughter's room, and now today my wife, she bought like this shelf or whatever that we're gonna put together, a bookshelf. We're gonna put together another shelves in her closet. So I gotta take some stuff out of the closet. It's gonna be a big day. And then like we have a crib that we took apart. Right now it's currently in the hallway, so we gotta find a place for that, put it away. The old mattress from my daughter's old bed. Just a lot of stuff we got to do. But it just got to be done. You know what I'm saying? You just got to do it. And so no fun today for the Ken man. Just work, working. And then that's it. That's my Sunday. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's a beautiful day, man. It was a beautiful day outside. Yesterday was a beautiful day, and I think it's supposed to be beautiful today. I think spring might finally show up. I think it might. Let me look at the calendar here. Let me look at the weather app. I got the Weather Channel app. Let's see what it says. Because yesterday was so it's right now, as I sit here and talk, it's 40 degrees out. It's supposed to be a high of 51 today. The thing about it, though, is when it's spring, 51 degrees feels like the tropics. It's like, you just fought negative sub-zero weather. 51 degrees feels fantastic. Throw the sweatshirt on. It's funny though, in the fall, when you just came from summer, 51 degrees, you just want to, it's just weird how that is. But anyway, it's supposed to be another beautiful day, sun shining, and so we'll get that all done. Jesus, I've been talking for almost 30 minutes about it. I had some other things I actually wrote down that I wanted to talk about, and I didn't have any of this written down. But I wanted to. Well, I guess I'm just gonna cross that off. I was gonna talk about how when I was a little kid, You know what I was thinking? When I was doing all this stuff yesterday, my mind is wandering, right? And I was thinking about Now, I love my life. I love my life. I wouldn't change it for the world, especially like when it comes to the wife and the kids and where I'm at, right? And my job, I'm, whatever. I'm happy with it. It's fine. But you ever think about like what, like if you did something else? I was thinking about if I was listening to this podcast. Now I told you I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, but I was watching a show called Landman, and I was reading and that's based on a podcast that came out a few years ago. So I was like, well, I really like the show. I'm gonna listen to this podcast. So I listened to it when I'm driving around. And there was a guy on there who's a barber, okay? And he was used to work in a factory, and then the factory went under, and he went to school to become a barber. And this is down in Texas. And when the guy was interviewing him, he was in his little shop or whatever, and all these people were there, like playing checkers and dominoes and talking and drinking, like the old days. Like the Andy Griffith Show. I watched the Andy Griffith Show, and Floyd, the barber, everyone shows up and they just sit around and talk. They're not even getting their hair cut. They just shoot the shit. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if that would work today. I'm an old soul. I'm an old soul. I'm as old as you can. I'm 37 years old. When it comes to my soul, though, I'm like 102. I'm old soul. And I was thinking, man, how cool would it be to be a barber? Have a little shop. People would come in every day. You shoot the shit. You talk. You have fun. I was wondering if that would work these days. Because everyone's so... It would be a bunch of retired guys probably coming in, I guess. But I think I could make that work. Talking to a bunch of 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds, 80, 90. I think that'd be all right. I think that'd be fun. So I thought about, like, man, I wonder what would it take to become a barber? And that's something that's missing. That's something that's missing in today's world. It's just a good old-fashioned barber shop. Now, I go to, I get my hair cut by some, well, it kind of is a small barber. It's not a barber shop, though, because it's girls. I don't know. Can girls be barbers? I feel like a barber is a man. Now, I'm not trying to be sexist here. I'm not doing the woman-man thing here. I'm just saying a woman is a hairstylist and a man is a barber. There's not a lot of barbers. Even when there's a chain in where I live called the Barber Shop that I used to go to. And it was kind of like, it was called the Barber Shop. It really wasn't, but they primarily cut men's hair. It was for men. Like, they didn't have the machine, they didn't have those big air dryers. You couldn't get a perm, nothing like that. And it was cute. A lot of men in there with their sons. They both got the haircut. And but I was thinking to myself, these are all women in here cutting hair. I mean, I wonder if they ever were like, I went to school for this, to give this guy a bowl cut. Like, I want to be like, I wonder if they were like, I want to dye these, I want to give girls perms and stuff like that. But you don't see a lot of barbers these days. Now, when I mean, again, I'm treading water here, white male barbers. I think it's still a big thing in the African American community. The barbershop. That's still a big thing. And I think it might even be a big thing in other ethnicities. But the white men, you just don't see it. I remember when I was a little kid, we had a barber, an old school barber, where in the town I grew up. And I would ride it was $5 for a haircut, and I'd ride my bike to his barber shop, and I'd get my hair. Jack the Barber. Is there Jack the Barber? And I'd get my hair cut from him. Talk about old soul. I was like 8 years old. I just thought it was cool to go to the barber shop. And no, there was no one ever in there or anything like that. But I often wonder, that should be something that's brought back. I think there would be a market for that. Good old-fashioned barber shop for men to come get their hair cut, talk, shoot the shit, and then you leave, and there's not, relatively cheaper haircuts. I just don't know if a guy can make a decent living at that. Let's just say, how long does it take? Let's just say it takes 15 minutes to cut a person's hair. Okay? Now let's throw another 5 minutes in there for, the exchanging of money, sweeping up the hair, getting the chair ready for the next customer. So let's say 20 minutes. So that means you get 20, 40, 3 haircuts an hour. Let's say you work 8 hours a day. That's 24 haircuts a day. Now, if you multiply, let's say you want to keep it reasonably cheap, or it's not too expensive. I don't know, $15 maybe. Let's see. So 24 times 15. So you're gonna make $360 a day times 5. That's $1,800 a week. Now let's say you work out of the 52 weeks a year. Let's say you work 48. So let's times that by 48. I don't know. That's 86 grand. That's 86 grand. That's not terrible. But you got to understand, you're the business owner. Not 86 grand is not. I'm not making light of the $86,000. Don't get me wrong. But when you're a business owner, you're gonna be making more than that, because you got to pay rent, you got to pay this, you got to pay all this overhead. You know what I'm saying? You got to pay all that stuff. So you would probably want to be making. So you're probably not gonna be living high, But it would be a nice job, I think. But if you did 3 haircuts times 8, that's 24 customers a day. Times 2, no, let's do times 5. So that's 120 haircuts a week. Okay? Now let's think about this. How often would a person be getting their haircut on average? On average. I knew people that used to get their haircut like once every 2 weeks. But me personally, sometimes I go a month, 2 months. So I'd say on average, a person gets a haircut every 5 weeks. So you would have to have 120 customers for 5 weeks. So you would almost have to have 600 people. That's where I think things get a little. That's where I think you're gonna have the trouble, is getting the clientele. 600 people, let's just say, that you're religiously cutting their hair every 4 to 5 weeks. Ugh. I don't know, man. So this is what happens, is that you end up you got to get a couple more chairs in there, get a couple more barbers in there, right? Get more people in the door, and then you charge those guys rent, and you make a little money that way. But now you're losing that barbershop mentality. Now you have a business, efficiency. You have your, in and out, next guy. And now you lose the guys in the corner playing checkers. You lose the camaraderie. So I don't know. I guess my final stance is I think the modern day barbershop isn't a thing. I don't know. If there's anyone out there that's a barber, let me know. There's some, but I don't know. I mean, it's funny. My hair, I don't like. My hair it is what it is. I don't go crazy about it. I don't style it. I don't get it cut every 2 weeks. But I do know there's people out there that it's just like they have buzz cuts, or they have short hair. And it just gets, it's not even long, and they're like, I gotta get a haircut. It's like, I would love to get a haircut every 4 weeks, because I like getting my haircut. I love it. I like people touching my head, on top of my shoulders. That is, and I especially love it when they wash my hair. Oh my God, I just melt in the chair, man. I love it, and I would love to get my haircut every 4 weeks. But dude, I mean, the haircut, it's $20, plus you throw a tip on there, because you got to tip. God forbid if you don't tip. And then, it's an expense that you probably don't really need, That's the way I look at it. But what do I know? Huh? What do I know? Another thing I thought about being when I was a kid, and I wish, again, I wouldn't change anything, but I wish I would have put more thought into it, was being a carpenter, being a guy that builds houses. I feel like there's a market, and the reason I say that is because I would have learned the trade, right? I can build stuff. My old house, I did the basement. Me and my old man, we did we finished it. Me and him. But like putting a window in or something like that, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. But the thing is, another job out there, another market out there that I think is doing good is the handyman business. I feel like the handyman business is something where a guy could make a lot of money at. Reason I say that is because in today's world, you got the boomers, right? They probably know how to do it, but it's difficult for them to do it. And then you got the single moms, or stuff like a lot of single moms these days. But you also have this just the generation, or like they don't want to screw with it. You know what I mean? I would say there's a lot more people out there that don't want to screw with changing light bulbs, and they would rather just have a guy do it. And a while back, I watched some YouTube videos about handymen and like the crazy money they make and the stuff that they do, like literally just pressing like the reset button on a outlet. It's like that's it's just funny. I think to make money, you gotta think outside the box. And any kids out there, if there's any kids listening, you're in high school, you're gonna be going to college, please seriously consider what you want to do when you grow up. Like, really think about it. I know you're young. You may not know what you want to do, but the people that went to school for something that they loved, right? Like, like it's just like go to school for something like do what you want to do. Like a job, I feel this is gonna be this is the unofficial unordinary opinion. This is not my ordinary opinion, but I feel like when you have a job, you should do something you enjoy, but it doesn't necessarily have to be something you love. Okay? It doesn't necessarily have to be something you love. What I mean by that is when you have a job, you got to be thinking about, okay, am I going to be able to make a living? Am I going to be able to am I going to have the life I want to live? Am I going to be able to afford, with all these tariffs and shit like that, is that a big deal to me or not? But you go to school, but when you go to school and you're like, well, I want to be a FIAD teacher or some shit. Well, okay, fine, but you're probably not, but don't bitch and moan about the money you make. Like, you had that choice, That's what hobbies are for. You know what I mean? That's what hobbies are for. If you like sports, if you want to be a general manager of a football team, that's what fantasy football is for. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to become a general manager of a team. Don't go to school for sports management. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. Don't go to school for any of that shit. The people that I talk to that because think about the numbers, about how many people are doing work and they have a degree and it has nothing to do with what they're actually doing. I don't know. I just really think about that. Or really think about what you want to do, because you're going to go to school, you're going to pay all this money for a degree, and if you don't even use it, then what's the point of getting the goddamn thing? I wanted to go and party. Well, dude, your friends are going to be in college. You can visit them you're going to get your partying in. Don't worry about it. You're going to party. That's why I'm a big advocate of the technical college, the technical degrees. Go get a degree in something that's legit. Something that is hands-on, and you can make money. And you know what? You might not love your job, but that's because it's a job. You make money. Then you go home and you do something you love. All right? That's the mindset. If I can give you any advice, when you're thinking about your career, be realistic. Okay? Be realistic. Now, hey, I don't want to, you got to have the dreamers. You got to have the people, because otherwise, eventually, you're not going to have general managers of football teams, So you got to have someone. You can't have everyone just being like, well, okay, you can't have every single person in the world being a goddamn electrician. But really think about what you want to do, Like, I don't know. I think I knew a guy once that went to college, and I think he got what did he get his degree in? What was it called? It was just like, social. It wasn't social work, but that's one, like social work. Oh, you're right. Yeah. You're going to go to school, get a degree in social work. I hope you enjoy ramen noodles for the rest of your life. Nothing against social work, but that's something you can do on your spare time. Like if that's truly your passion is like, oh, I'm going to make the world a better place. Well, do it on your spare time. Make money. Do what you got to do to make a good living so you're not stressed out of your mind. And then do your social work on that. That's going to be your hobby. And then also on that, what the hell did you go? It was just like, it wasn't social work. It wasn't social studies. It was, general studies, I think it was called. Like just general studies. He went to college and got a degree just for general studies. Just like, that's what it was. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. It was just like, you just went to school to go to school. Like, what in the hell? What do you, how's that going to help you? How is that going to help you? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I was talking. The reason I'm saying this is because I was talking to somebody the other day, and they went to school and they got a degree that, it's not going to benefit them at all. And, now they got the job that they don't really enjoy at the time. And, it was like a cousin of mine or whatever. And, just think about that. Think about if you're young and you're going into a career path, take these words of advice. You don't have to love your job. You don't have to love it. Now, you don't want to be miserable. You don't want to be, because it is 8 hours a day, 9, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day for some jobs. But, it's there so that you can go home and do something you enjoy. And, that's my take on it. That might be an old school way of looking at it. That definitely is probably an unpopular opinion. I don't want to shut down the dreamers, but because another thing you want to be careful of is turning your hobby into a business. That's another thing that I think people should be very, because like I said, I do woodworking, right? And I was like, I should turn this into a business. But then as soon as you throw money at it and you need to make money, then it kind of takes I've heard that from so many people. They enjoy doing something, so they're like, well, see if I can make some money at this. And then, as soon as the hobby is nice because it's something that you don't have to do. You do it when you want. It's a leisure activity. But then as soon as you start, like, needing to do it, and it's like, oh, boy, you kind of lose its love for it. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Does that make any sense at all? I don't know. All I'm saying, the reason for this all is for the kids. This is for the kids. Think about what you truly want to do. And then really think, like, is it realistic? Am I really going to be able to have the life that I want to live? Because here's the deal. Like, let's say, like, one thing I wanted to do? I was watching Mad Men a lot. And when I was younger, right? I was watching Mad Men and I was like, oh, dude, I want to be a copywriter. That's what I want to do. I want to work for I want to be just like, what was it? Don. What the hell is his last name? I can't think of it. John Hamm's character. Like, that's what I want to do. I'm a creative person. I'm creative. I don't know what to tell you. I'm creative. I come up with some witty shit. Like, that's my calling in life, is to be a copywriter. And I wanted to do it. But then I looked into it, right? There is no advertising firms. I mean, there is, but I'm not going to be, but the money isn't going to be there, right? Realistically, I got to move to Chicago. I got to move to LA. I got to move to New York. You got to move to a big market, And I didn't want to do that. Now, I could have went to school for that. And what would have happened is that I would have realized that I don't want to move away. And now I have this degree that's kind of worthless. So, you just got to think now, hear me out. If you're okay with moving, if you're okay with doing that, then God bless you. Then get the degree. You're going to have to work up the ladder, but you're going to have to move and then go for it. But if you're kind of like a homebody like I am, I made peace that I'm not going to be the general manager of the Green Bay Packers. I made peace with that a long time ago. So I don't know. That's some free advice. Free advice. Okay, we're running real long here, so we're going to get into some emails. But before we get into emails, I promised last week we talked about the wrestling Mount Rushmore, okay? And I thought about it this week, and I have my 4 guys. I got my 4 guys. They're men. I was thinking about throwing a woman on there, like, but the thing is I think they wouldn't be on Mount Rushmore because of how they led their lives after the fact. Sunny. Right? If you grew up watching wrestling in the 90s, you know who Sunny is. And I'm sure she's in your brain. I'm sure she shows up once in a while during your dreams. But she had terrible, she's in jail serving, I think, 20-some years for manslaughter or something like that. China. China. But she was an Intercontinental Champion. That's a man's championship, and she was the first woman to become Intercontinental Champion. I think a lot of women these days would say that she's an inspiration, but her life out of wrestling wasn't that great. This could be a little hypocritical because I do have 2 guys on the list that didn't leave extraordinary lives, but what they did for the industry kind of precedes it. But the guys I have on the list, all right, we know 2 of them, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? Without Hulk Hogan, wrestling today, as we know it, might not exist. And I mean that. Like, without Hulk Hogan, wrestling might not exist, maybe at all. I don't know. No, I take that back. It would exist, but it definitely would be like so many years behind where it's at right now. Like I said, he was a household name, man. Household name. Big. Another household name was Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, I will say this. Without Stone Cold Steve Austin, he kind of led that Attitude Era for the WWE. The WWE might not exist. I know for a fact Vince McMahon was running into issues. And WCW was beating WWE. It might not be here. And who knows how that looks, because I've seen a lot of WCW documentaries where Ted Turner liked WCW. Ted Turner was the reason WCW was around, but his business, like all of his other people, they didn't want wrestling. They weren't in the wrestling business. They didn't want it. It was Ted Turner's little baby. And eventually Ted Turner kind of got ran out of his own company in a way. And they would, so it was one of those things where it's like, well, so who knows? So without Stone Cold, without Hulk Hogan, today's wrestling, that's why they're on there, because without them, today's wrestling would look completely different. It might not even exist. Okay? That's why those guys are on the Mount Rushmore. Stone Cold Steve Austin, talk about a pop. In wrestling, when you say the word pop, you're talking about the audience. You hear that glass shatter and you get a pop, right? That was huge. Number 3 on the list, tied for my favorite wrestler of all time with Stone Cold, is Bret the Hitman Hart. He's on the Mount Rushmore for me personally. Now, after Hulk Hogan, before Stone Cold, Bret Hart was kind of carrying the flame for the WWF. And Bret the Hitman Hart was a phenomenal wrestler. He was a guy that, now we all know that wrestling is predetermined. Now, I'm not going to say, I don't say fake. I don't say the F word. I don't say the F word when I talk about wrestling. I'm saying it now just to get my thoughts across. But I don't say that word. I say predetermined. That's the word I say, predetermined. But when Bret Hart was wrestling, I can't think of a person that can sell. Now, selling in the world of wrestling is when you talk about, like, someone hits you in the face, and it's making it believable. All right, that's what it is, making it believable. When you saw Bret the Hitman Hart wrestle, man, I don't think there's a guy that sold better than him. Like, you thought, like, oh man, this is the real deal. And also, just his fan base across the world, like, he was just huge. But the reason why is another wrestling term is heel, right? A heel. That's when you're a bad guy. Now, every wrestler goes through, there's a baby face, that's a good guy. And then there's a heel, that's a bad guy. And every wrestler kind of goes through their stages of being a heel or a baby face, right? Bret the Hitman Hart primarily was a baby face. Early on, he was a heel. Then he was a baby face. But in 1997, he went on a heel run. Now, that's when you're a bad guy. That's your run, right? And I cannot think of a better heel run ever in the world of wrestling than Bret Hart's 1997 heel run. Please tell me if there's a better one. But Bret the Hitman Hart, what was awesome about him is this was before 9/11 and stuff, so he was like shitting on the USA because he's Canadian. So what was awesome about Bret Hart's heel run is he was shitting on America, and primarily all the events are in America, so everyone's booing him, just booing the hell out of him. Stone Cold Steve Austin was the knight in shining armor for the USA. Him and Stone Cold had, and their match at WrestleMania 13 is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's pretty cool. Because that, if you're kind of into wrestling, go on Peacock and look up WrestleMania 13, Bret Hart versus Stone Cold. That match, they're saying it's the best match ever, and I'm not going to disagree, because Bret Hart came into that match as a good guy. Okay, Stone Cold came into that match as a bad guy. Okay, during the match, it flipped. You know how incredibly difficult that is to do? At the end of the match, everyone was booing Bret Hart and everyone was cheering Stone Cold. They did a flip, man. It's psychologically how you. That's what I like about wrestling is the psychological aspect of it. People give me shit about, my wife included. They, oh, you watching this stuff again, but it's just cool how they can play to the minds of all the people watching. It's just it's very fascinating to me. But anyway, Bret Hart, and then when he went to Canada, he was the good guy, and you never saw that with a heel, quote unquote. You never saw that where he went to one city, he's a good guy, and he goes to another city and he's the bad guy. And that's what I thought was so cool about that particular heel run. And if you want to hear a pop from the crowd, go back, I think it's called a Canadian Stampede. It was a pay-per-view, Canadian Stampede. It was basically the Hart Foundation, so it was Bret Hart and then his guys, right? Owen Hart, British Bulldog, Brian Pillman, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And then it was versus Stone Cold's team, which it was kind of I don't remember exactly who's all on that team. It was like a 5-on-5 tag match. And that crowd is going berserk. I think it was in Calgary, which is Bret Hart's hometown. That crowd was going nuts. Stone Cold got dragged out in handcuffs, dude. Oh. So anyway, Bret Hart's on there. Now, this fourth guy, I'll be honest with you. This fourth spot could be, it could be interchangeable. I could swap it out every once in a while because I'm not married to this fourth spot, but I did throw Ric Flair on there because of everything he did for the wrestling in NWA, then WCW, and then WWF, and just the respect that everybody has for Ric Flair. Unfortunately, I just don't know a lot about him. I was not a WCW guy, but I knew who Ric Flair was, and that's saying something. You know what I mean? That I knew who Ric Flair was, and I didn't watch it. So, that's saying something. Plus, also, he's another one. I maybe household name potentially. Like when I go to my grandpa, right? He's 84 years old, and I say, "Do you know Hulk Hogan?" He's gonna say yes. I should ask him if he knows Ric Flair. See if he's a household name or not. But those are my four guys: Hulk, Stone Cold, Bret the Hitman Hart, Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Thought about throwing the Undertaker on there, but the thing about the Undertaker is, he gets a pop, right? He gets a pop from the crowd. When the lights go out, it's phenomenal. When you hear the church bells ring, and it's great. It's fantastic. I've witnessed it live. It's awesome. He had the WrestleMania streak, but would the question is would the industry have survived without him? And I think the answer is yes. That's kind of my big thing is, would the industry be what it is today if these people didn't play a part in it? And I think those three guys, and you might say, well, Bret Hart. But Bret Hart started, he basically started the Attitude Era. The Montreal Screwjob, that was Bret Hart basically started, making that Mr. McMahon character. Bret and Vince were doing it before Stone Cold and Vince were doing it. So, yeah, I don't know. That's my thoughts, and I'm sticking to it. Now let's get into some emails here. I checked. We do not have any messages, but you can message me at the Ordinary Average Guy Podcast Show. You can find that on Facebook. You can send me a message. Otherwise, you can email me. I got 3 emails here, and you can email me at jkennoag@outlook.com. We got Anita. Anita Hanjob is back in the email inbox here. So Anita Hanjob is here. She writes, I was really waiting to hear the results of your math on what you paid into Social Security. Really left me hanging there. Anita Hanjob loves math. I bet you do, Anita. I forget exactly what I was talking. I remember last week I was talking a little bit about that. I don't know. I must have been doing some math. I forget. Anita, I apologize. I'll have to go back and listen to what I talked about. We have our buddy Lou Sassel is in the inbox here. His email is Lou Sassel's Wrestling Mount Rushmore. All right. His Mount Rushmore is Bret Hart. I think Bret Hart's gonna be on a lot of people's Mount Rushmores. Undertaker. Okay, Undertaker's on yours. I get it. I explained why he's not on mine, but I respect your Mount Rushmore. Now he has Shawn Michaels on there. Now that was a tough one, and he came up for me as well. But Shawn Michaels, phenomenal. I've said it many times. Shawn Michaels could have a match with a broomstick, and it would be entertaining. I mean, he faced Vince McMahon at WrestleMania. I mean, Vince McMahon is, it's like he's not a wrestler, and that match was still awesome because of Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair. The 2-time Shawn Michaels face. When you think of Shawn Michaels, you think WrestleMania, and that's big. That's pretty cool to have. If you're a wrestler, WrestleMania is the Super Bowl. That is the ultimate dream, and to have all the matches he's had. Plus, he had, I think, the first ever ladder match. I think he had a phenomenal one against Bret Hitman Hart. He had a phenomenal one against Razor Ramon at WrestleMania. Yeah, he's definitely up there. The thing why Shawn Michaels wasn't on my Mount Rushmore though is because he was such a dick. He was such a dick, and I still have a kind of a bitter taste in my mouth, even though the Montreal Screwjob had to happen. For wrestling to be where it is today, the Montreal Screwjob had to happen. Okay? At the time, and I'm sure a lot of people, you listen to wrestlers talk about, they don't like it. But I am going to say, without it, you don't have what you have today. Okay? That created the Attitude Era, which in turn was able to beat WCW, which in return made Vince be able to buy WCW. But still, I don't like it. And then WrestleMania 14, he didn't want to put Stone Cold Steve. He was just, I feel like he was bad for business in his early days. Then he came back and he was a changed man. He's literally, he's Christian, doesn't do drugs, but in the 90s and in the 80s, he was such a prick that, I don't know. I feel like it's hard to put you on the Mount Rushmore. Last one, and then Luke continues to say, last one was tough, but I have to go with Ric Flair. Yeah, that's funny. We had the same thoughts on that. I feel like Ric Flair's one of those guys. I don't know much about him. Lou, I'm guessing maybe you don't know either. But I just feel like he's just one of those guys where okay, well, you have a Mount Rushmore. I guess Ric Flair's got to be up there. But which hurts for me is that I've only ever seen Ric Flair wrestle as an older person, right? So a lot of chops, nothing really, right? But he was, I don't know, but I like it. He goes on today to say, so he goes on to say longevity and showmanship were my primary factors. Okay, that's fantastic. All four of these guys. Shawn Michaels, the showmanship in the ring. That's phenomenal. Yes, his showmanship in the ring was second to none. Probably should have Hogan on there, but the more documentaries I watch, the less I care for him. Lou, I agree with you 100%. It almost hurts me to put Hulk Hogan on the Mount Rushmore. It almost I don't want him to be on there. Wouldn't put people over. Everything he says apparently is a lie. His life is a mess. But he kind of goes against my rules there a little bit, where I gotta have him on there because it just, that's my thing. Would wrestling be what it is today, and it's awesome today. That's the thing. It's awesome. And would it be there if it wasn't for these guys? And the four guys on my list is why they're on my list. We have an email from the Sauce. Your Netflix guide is the subject of the email. Okay, that's fantastic. Last week I was kind of ragging on Netflix a little bit, but maybe that will change with this email. Good morning, Mr. J-Kenn. Let me take you by the hand and walk you through the Netflix experience. Fantastic. First thing that got me really hooked were the documentaries. I'm a documentary guy. He goes on to say, World War II docs were my jam that I would watch every night before bed. But within the last couple of years, they have upped their game in the sports documentaries. May I suggest Full Swing or Malice at the Palace? There are definitely a couple good sports ones on there. Second, if you are looking for some adult viewing with the wife, they have quite the romance section for movies. Oh, when you were talking about adult viewing, you know what makes me happy is when you turn on a movie, and then it tells you like it's rated R or PG-13, and it tells you why, like graphic knowledge, violence. When I see the word nudity on there, I'm not gonna lie to you. Probably something I shouldn't brag. I'm not bragging. I get a little excited when I see the word nudity on there. I'm like, all right, okay, you got me. I'll watch it. If you're feeling spicy, check out 365 Days. It may improve Mr. and Mrs. J-Kenn's bedroom activities. Well, it's not a bad thing. If action is the cup of tea you are looking for, check out Extraction with Chris Hemsworth. Need a series? ? I got that for you too. Vikings Valhalla. Valhalla? That is definitely not how you say that word, but it sounds cool. Valhalla. That could be another little word we use on the show. Valhalla. I don't know what it means yet. I'll figure out what it's going to mean, but it's going to be a word that we use on the show. Can I get a Valhalla? Valhalla. Vikings, but I don't know what the word is. I don't know. Are an excellent choice. And since you were once a local star comedian, which I was, Lakeshore's top comic, the stand-up section is always top-notch. Yes, you are absolutely 100% right. They do have good stand-up on there. Bill Burr recently took his stand-up to Hulu, though. His latest stand-up special was on Hulu. So I wonder what happened there. Speaking of stand-up, a good comedy series is Tires. With Shane Gillis. Yes, I watched first season. And maybe I was shitting on Netflix there. Maybe I shouldn't. But my thought was, and maybe I should watch some of these other shows. But I was just really impressed with Paramount Plus. Like I said, right now we're watching Tulsa King. And I personally was when I go on the treadmill, I watch Mirror of Kingstown. And we just got done watching Lamb, and I was just really impressed with the cinematic, like camera angles, the cinema. It was like you were watching a movie. And I remember that was like very HBO did that with Game of Thrones and their shows. I really appreciated that. There's just some of the stuff I was watching on Netflix just didn't seem like it was. I don't know. I appreciate that. I guess I don't know. That Taylor Sheridan, man. I wish I never watched Yellowstone, which is hard to believe because I'm a Costner guy, but I didn't have the Paramount channel. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have the channel, so I wasn't able to watch it. And now it's on Paramount, which Peacock. So I want to watch it, but we're watching all this other stuff, and now I feel like I'm too far. You know, I know what happens to Costner, so it's like, God damn it. But that's, I guess, kind of what I was getting at with that. Hope this helps out the Sauce. Thank you, Sauce. I will save this email and we will be checking. I'm a big history buff. I am a history buff. One of my biggest gripes is that the History Channel isn't even really the History Channel anymore. Kind of pisses me off. I mean, I want to watch some good old-fashioned history documentaries, you know, stuff like I want to learn. But you turn on History Channel, you see Gold Rush. No, nothing against Gold Rush. Nothing against Ice Road Truckers. Nothing against it. But that isn't... Why is that on History Channel? No, it doesn't make any sense. Like, that should be on a different channel. Discovery. Maybe it is on Discovery. I don't know. But I want to... When I turn on the History Channel, I want to see history. You know, is that so... You know... Is that so much to ask for? To turn on a History Channel to learn about history and then you can't even get it? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, unordinary opinion. Now, I may have talked about this one. If I had this one before, I apologize. But if I didn't, I think I might have, but I'm not sure. If I didn't talk about it though, that just tells you how long this has been stewing on my mind. And it's a negative. It's one that I don't. It's not one that it's one that I think people don't think about. But I'm really upset with the direction that Sesame Street has taken. Obviously, I have small kids. We watch a lot of Sesame Street. And when I was a kid, Sesame Street was my thing. I was a big Sesame Street guy. I was a big Sesame Street guy. I was a big Mr. Rogers Neighborhood. Loved that stuff. Anyway, when I was a kid, Sesame Street, Big Bird was the guy. Big Bird was the leader. Big Bird. Okay? All of a sudden, and I was thinking about this, it probably was back to the Tickle Me Elmo days, but Elmo seems to be the guy running the show. You know, when my daughters, they don't necessarily say they want to watch Sesame Street, they say, I want to watch Elmo. That's the name of the show, like the Kleenex tissue paper thing. It's called Sesame Street, but they call it Elmo. And it kind of rubs me I'm sorry. I was trying to play this straight, and I'm just laughing at how ridiculous this sounds. But I am serious. I don't know why Big Bird's gotten thrown to the curb, man. It's like Big Bird's not getting any attention. It's like without Big Bird's the Hulk Hogan of Sesame Street. Without Big Bird, I don't think you have Sesame Street. And they just treat him like garbage, I feel like. He's not getting the camera time. Elmo is getting all the camera time. Elmo, hey, Elmo. And then Abby? What's her story? Abby wasn't even around when I was a kid. And so Abby's like a new character, and she's getting like as much camera time as Elmo. And, you know, Big Bird is just, you know, getting kicked to the curb. So if anyone out there is on the Sesame Street team and you're listening to this, what's the deal? Why is Big Bird not getting the love? I don't know. To me, Big Bird was the character. When you thought of Sesame Street, if you're my age, when you thought of Sesame Street, you had a picture of Big Bird in your head. And now it's Elmo. I sound like an old man. You know, back in my day, Big Bird was the main character on Sesame Street, not this Elmo. I don't know. I just missed the good old days, right? So anyway, that's my unordinary opinion. And Abby? Yeah, dude. I'm all for bringing on new characters, whatever. But to throw her in the limelight like that, She didn't pay her dues. You know what I'm saying? All right, song of the week. We're going to go talking about the past. When I was a kid, I was thinking about this the other day. And then when we were watching Tulsa King, they had this song on the show. And it brought me back to some good old memories of years ago. Years ago, there was a radio station called 93.5 WOZZ, okay, in the Green Bay area. And it went away. I always liked that. Even as a little kid, I always liked that station. It was a classic rock station. And I thought WOZZ was such a cool little, whatever that's called. I thought that was like WAPL. That's a cool one. You know, the Rockin' Apple. That's one that's cool. WOZZ I thought was pretty cool too. The Bob and Tom show were on that station. You know, that was cool. But anyway, on Saturday nights at 9 o'clock, every Saturday at 9 o'clock, they would play this song. And the song of the week is, now I want you to listen to it, but you're going to have, it's like 20 minutes long. So you're going to have to, just so you know. And if you're into illegal substances, if you're into that, if that's your thing, I would advise you to take them and then listen to this song. You're not going to hear that every day. I'm not for illegal. I'm not a big proponent of illegal substances. I'm just talking specifically of the plant kind. But if you're into smoking the reefer, if that's your thing, then do it and then listen to this song and then tell me what you think of it. Anyway, the song is by the band Iron Butterfly. And the name of the song is In-A-Gadda Da Vida, baby. It's In-A-Gadda Da Vida. But I'm a baby guy. I like saying baby. Yeah, baby. So In-A-Gadda Da Vida. Now, what's funny about that is that the song is actually supposed to be called In a Garden of Eden. That's the name of the song. Or that was supposed to be. But I think these guys were so stoned that they didn't In-A-Gadda Da Vida. That's why it is what it is. So it's a cool song, awesome riff, and it's long. So anyway, that's the song of the week. Hey everybody, I hope you had a wonderful time listening to me talk about all sorts of stuff. Man, we were all over the place. Have a windows down, radio up type of week. Oh dude, drive down the road with your windows down, radio up, playing In-A-Gadda Da Vida. Okay? Do it. It would be a mind altering. But if you're doing that, make sure you're not smoking anything, all right? Come on, we got to keep people safe on the roads, okay? All right, 10s and 10s. Have a good one.